steering wheel. The steering wheel.
I'm going to take you through my 2023 Mercedes F1 steering wheel. I mean, as you can see, there's so many different buttons, different rotaries on here. There's thousands and thousands of different setups you can have. The button that I use the most will be this white one, which is torque. So no big prizes. If anybody can guess what that is the button to torque to my team.
Is anyone else reporting rain? I think it's sweat from the inside of my helmet.
Over time, you learn exactly where every single button is, but when I hold the steering wheel, you'll see that everything is within one movement away, so I don't have to move my hand so much. My thumb reaches all of these buttons quite easily, whether it's one of these rotaries. The only time you have to take your hand off is when you're changing the strap mode. And the main function of this is how much battery is used for a given lap. So for a qualifying lap, we would go to the purple position, Strat 2, which is where I'm in at the moment. Strat 2 is basically there to deploy all of the battery, so that qualifying lap is like a sprint. You want that 100% battery at the beginning, and you want to finish, when you cross the line, that qualifying lap at 0%. Use all the battery available. This yellow one here, which is the pit lane speed limiter. So you'll come into the pit lane, you'll brake as late as possible. I'll click that yellow button, and then my speed limit will be on. And then once you've done your pit stop, you've got out of the pit lane, it's really important to click that button again as soon as possible to get going again when you re-enter the track. This is the DRS. So whenever I click this button, the rear wing of the car will open up, it will shed all of the drag, and we'll probably end up going about 20 to 30 kilometers an hour quicker in the straight. So when you're trying to overtake a car, that top left button is crucial. This one here, which says B-BAL, which stands for brake balance. So we have 4 brakes on the car, both on the front, both on the rear, and it depends whether you want that at a perfect 50-50 balance. Most of the time, most teams, most cars, you run the brake balance around 58%. And the reason you got more on the front is because when the car brakes into a corner, all of that weight is being pushed onto the front tires, onto the front axle of the car, and you need to have more of the brakes on the front to deal with that extra pressure that you're feeling. So if you're struggling with locking the front tires, as you see, you go into a corner, a driver turns, you got smoke coming from the tire, you might want to bring that balance a bit more rearwards. So that's a really useful tool. The N button here is not a button you want to be pressing when you're out on track, because that is the neutral button. You'll pull into the pit bay in first gear, click the N button, and you're down into neutral, so you can take your hands off the clutch and the car can be looked after by the mechanics. But the other thing with this button, if you press and hold it, is the reverse button. So during a lap, you're constantly tweaking these settings to really get the most out of your car. Over the course of a lap, you're probably making 5 or 6 changes a lap, just as the car's evolving, the tires are getting hotter as you progress through the lap, and you need to have a sort of unique setting for each individual scenario. So it's not probably a case of just you set it up and away you go. You've got to fine tune these things.
Thank you, George. That was great stuff. A lot to process there on the steering wheel, Jensen. Which button did you find most useful?
Well, there was lots of very useful buttons on there, but the one that was out of the ordinary would have been on the back of the steering wheel. You've got the gear paddles, you've got the clutches, which is 2 of each, and then you have 2 other paddles in the middle. And for me, I use that paddle as a diff paddle. So I would get into turn 6, which is a tight right-hander. You always had big understeer there, so I'd pull this diff paddle, which would open the diff, and it would help rotate the car. So that was the one for me.
I think the brake balance and brake migration ones are extremely important for the drivers, because you can really, and that's something I found quite useful as a tool, because you can adjust it across a lap in a qualifying lap. You can adjust it during a race when the tires are going off as well, just to try and protect the tires and give yourself a bit of confidence. Because for me, the first cue I've always got was when you hit the brake pedal, and if that wasn't right, then it kind of affected the rest of the corner.
And presumably affected your confidence as well.
Completely, yeah.
Talking of confidence, how much of it will Mercedes have coming into this race? I mean, certainly George, coming into the weekend, talked this up as a circuit that would really suit them. Yesterday's qualifying suggests otherwise. What about